What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel with the Batman in full swing. I have done a spoiler-free and a spoiler review for that movie. With that in full swing, we're going to be talking some more Batman on this channel, and today we're going to be talking the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan's trilogy. I have with me my usual cohort for these types of videos, Pat Guy. How's it going?
Hello, it's going pretty good.
Yeah, and we have an extra special guest today. Pat's older brother and newly cemented member of the Robert Pattinson fan club, Tim Guy.
Hey everybody, how's it going out there in comic book world? Happy to be here.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to talk some Christopher Nolan Batman movies with you guys. And we're going to start with Batman Begins from 2005. What was the hype like beforehand for you guys?
There was none. We thought this was gonna suck
think
because
everybody
Batman
did.
and Robin sucked.
I think everybody did.
I remember Pat and I being on vacation, and I remember seeing some kind of ad for it, and we saw a picture of Christian Bale coming out of the mansion. We're like, that ain't Batman. This is gonna be so bad.
I remember we
It's gonna be
specifically
terrible.
There's a mole on his nose. What the hell is
Oh my
that?
we thought the Batmobile looked like a piece of junk. We're like, what the hell is that thing? It doesn't even look like a bat.
Let's just say we didn't have high hopes for it, but let me tell you,
yeah, it was very similar to how we all felt about like Casino Royale and like Indiana Jones 4, where we're like, these are all gonna suck, and only one of those kind of sucked, which was Indy 4.
Indy 4 sucks. I mean, I'll be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for me, I was just like, I don't know, I was at that age where I hadn't watched Batman and Robin like a lot. I had always just watched the Michael Keaton ones, and then here and there I watched the Kilmer one, but I was like, this isn't the same without Michael Keaton. So I was like, okay, whatever. One vivid memory I have of this movie though is every time I stayed over your guys' house, Tim had the Batman Begins video game for Xbox. And I just remember the last level was like, save Rachel or something,
Yep.
You just had to drive in the Batmobile.
You had to sneak around a lot in that game and like use fear as like a
Yeah.
weapon. It was pretty cool actually.
I thought it was a great game, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's one of the better like movie tie-in games.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah,
A lot of those suck, but that one was pretty good.
Alex, did you like Michael Keaton as Batman?
I did. He's my second favorite Batman.
After George Clooney, of course.
Of course. But he is my second favorite after the man that stars in this trilogy, Christian Bale. So let's just get right into Batman Begins. So you guys obviously have mentioned the hype or the non-existent hype that you had for this movie.
Yeah.
But then you guys saw it, and what were your immediate reactions right after? Do you remember? I know it was like almost 20 years ago.
Oh, Jesus Christ, it was, wasn't it?
Thanks for making me feel old. I mean, damn. I would say, Pat, if you don't, you want to go first, or want me to go first?
You can go first, man.
I guess what I remember the first night seeing it, I tried to go in with an open mind. I remember, all the reviews were really good, so I was like, oh my God, okay, this actually could be the first good Batman movie since arguably Batman Returns, and it came out in 1992. But I remember like being just kind of like blown away with I think the first like scene of the movie where it's like it's back when Bruce is a kid and he's dreaming, and all of a sudden he's in a prison. You're like, what is Bruce Wayne doing in a prison?
Yeah, it really throws you for a loop. It's like, what the fuck's going on?
It's like very intentionally disorienting at first, and I really like that.
And I'll say this too, like it has a very like disorienting structure to it too, because it goes back and forth between the present day, a flashback, and then even further into flashbacks.
Yeah, true.
I remember that night seeing it for the first time, being kind of blown away. And I remember for the first time in a long time seeing a movie, like the whole chase scene with the Batmobile, he's trying to save Rachel's life. He's like, Rachel! And I just remember
Stay with me.
I just remember these two guys in front of me being like, yeah, and they're like gave each other a high five.
Oh my God, I hate those.
Like because they like love the movie so much. Like, dude, this is awesome. People are giving high fives to each other in the movie theater. Like, come on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I usually hate when people do that, but when they're that hyped and they're having that good of a time, I let it fly.
Right. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
What did you think, Pat? What did you think about it?
For Begins, for me, was such a surprise because obviously I grew up with all the 90s and the 89 movie. But I mean, it's just funny that you had 4 theatrical Batman releases. I mean, 5 if you count the Adam West one back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And none of them ever covered like a detailed origin story of how he became Batman. They like all kind of had that as like part of the
Yeah,
background.
because the Keaton ones began when he was already Batman.
Yeah,
Right?
he's already like pretty well established, and like it goes into like like his parents dying and stuff, but his actual training and
Right.
like
With
what
the
he had to
legal
do like wasn't ever like part of the
Right.
plot. So I think Begins was smart, and Christopher Nolan was smart to want to start from the very beginning and show that transition. And I think that's one of my favorite things about Begins is I think Begins is the Batman movie of all Batman movies that focuses most on Bruce Wayne, where I
Right.
just feel like I know that Bruce so well by the end of that movie. Like you see that journey like completely, and I love the way they incorporated Ra's al Ghul into his
Yeah.
training and all that type of
Henry
stuff.
Ducard, Qui-Gon Jinn himself.
Yeah, like I just thought it was a great movie, and I mean it's one of those where I think it's underrated. I think because it's
Oh yeah, definitely.
overshadowed by
Definitely.
The Dark Knight, but
And for a lot of people, The Dark Knight Rises.
yeah,
That's crap. Yeah, that's crap.
we'll get to it. We'll get
Yeah.
to it.
Batman Begins is definitely better than Dark Knight Rises. We'll talk about that later.
And I mean, I just think this movie's just really well done overall. And I think Christopher Nolan really saved the Batman franchise because really, Batman and Robin like
Oh, yeah.
buried
Yeah,
it.
that was like, I mean, think about it too. They were originally going to do a 5th one to that series,
Yeah,
and then they were like, Batman and Robin sucked. Nope. Sorry, Schumacher.
Well, I just remember, and this is what I remember about. I was so, I think when Pat and I were talking a little while ago, because Batman and Robin was so bad,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't really that excited for Batman Begins because we're like,
It's
where do they
kind
go?
of like Superman, right? Because I remember like Superman Returns is obviously turned out to be nowhere near as good or even good. But even like because Batman and Robin was so bad, and then you had Superman 4: The Quest for Peace that was so bad. So I don't think anybody was even looking forward to Superman Returns.
Probably
which
not.
Came out the year after, but then
Yep.
it got really good reviews, and everybody was like, "Yeah, Superman Returns is good." And then you watch it, it's like, no. Luckily, Batman Begins doesn't have that
No.
feeling. You know, I really love the beginning with the League of Shadows, where he's like going through like all the ninja training, and he has to like cut all the ninjas to see which one what was it? I just watched the trilogy too.
To try to make it, it's like to make them seem like they're him because he
Yes.
got cut.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, he got
yeah.
cut.
And I just love it when he comes out behind Liam Neeson and he just puts the sword up to his neck and he's like, "Oh, yep, you completed your training."
And then poor Ken Watanabe with
I
his
know.
cameo. This impressive.
Yeah, the fake Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, I was like, Ken Watanabe, hell yeah! Last Samurai came out last year. It was amazing.
Dude,
And then he's in it for like
don't
5
talk-
minutes.
Yeah,
Damn
man,
it,
Cosimoto, baby.
Yep.
Matsumoto.
Oh yeah, gotta love Ken Watanabe and everything.
I mean,
he's in.
When they said like Ra's al Ghul was gonna be in this movie, I was kind of like, isn't that one weird guy from the cartoon? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't really like his episodes. And then they did a good job with him. They
Well,
didn't
I
go
think-
like supernatural route.
Yeah, that was my thing. I think from my experience, because I haven't read any of the comics, but he's in the Arkham games and all that, and the Arkham games lean more into like the supernatural stuff with Ra's al Ghul. So I think taking a more grounded, realistic approach was obviously the goal of this trilogy. But I think you really had to, if you're going to bring in a supernatural villain like that, you have to make it more grounded. And I think that they did a really, really good job. And his plan is actually like a really like realistic plan. It's like this microwave emitter that's gonna, cause the sewers in Gotham to blow up and spread fear because they have the fear toxin in them.
I like. I
Society
think
sucks.
Alex. I think to kind of what you're talking about, Alex, too. We're kind of all talking about the genius of Batman Begins, and like I feel like part of the genius too is also, having totally different villains because Batman has so many great villains.
They
I've
didn't
always
go
been
right away for the A-lister.
Oh yeah, and I've always been a huge Batman fan of the old cartoon show, the comics. Like he is by far has the best villains out of any.
He's got the greatest rogues gallery you could ever think.
Yeah, and the casting in Batman Begins was phenomenal as well.
Except one.
Well, yeah.
Katie Holmes.
How dare you? She was in Dawson's Creek.
Oh God, please.
She was married to Tom Cruise.
Oh please, they weren't even married. They weren't even married.
Our lives to be over.
I like how they use Bruce Wayne's own like weapons against the city.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
I know. I love
Wayne
that too. Yeah,
Enterprise. I thought that was a
dude.
really cool twist on it
Morgan
too.
Freeman as Lucius Fox. This
Oh
series
yeah.
is too amazing.
Yeah, Michael Caine as Alfred.
Oh,
He
dude.
was great.
Tidying up members of the Wayne family.
Dude, that's so good, honestly.
You never did give up on me, Alfred. Never. But like, okay, we got to talk to Christian Bale is
Yeah,
great.
Christian Bale.
Okay, he's great. He
He's
plays Batman really like. Sure, everyone makes fun of the voice now because it is like very easy to do.
Throat cancer.
But like his Bruce is just so good. Like whether it's the fake Bruce that's partying or the Bruce that's like talking to Alfred in the
Just
cave.
please
Like,
get out. Leave. Party's over.
I want to thank you all for coming here tonight and drinking all of my booze. No, really. There's a thing about being a Wayne that you're never short of a few freeloaders like yourselves to fill up your mansion with. So here's to you people. Thank you.
That's enough.
I'm not finished. To all of you phonies, all of you two-faced friends, you sycophantic suck-ups who smile through your teeth at me, please leave me in peace. Please go. Stop smiling. It's not a joke. Please leave. The party's over. Get out.
just stop smiling. Go.
Not a joke. It's not a joke. Get out.
The
I
apple has
think-
fallen very far from the tree.
I've always loved that moment too, where he's where what's her name? Rachel takes him to like the slums of Gotham. Which hold on,
yeah.
I have a bone to pick with this trilogy with Gotham.
Okay.
By the way, like I love
Okay.
I love the look of Gotham in this movie. How it's like slummy and crummy, and it's like I don't want to
Yeah.
live here. And then how does it go from that to being like, oh hey, Chicago?
Hey, because Batman cleaned shit up, all right? Batman has been around for a couple of years.
Dude,
Okay, he's cleaned
dude.
up the city. And Harvey Dent
Batman-
has cleaned the city.
The White Knight.
Batman cleans up stuff better than Magic Eraser. Okay, Batman cleaned up Gotham and it looked
That's
good.
true. Very
Dark
true.
Knight.
But like, I mean, for sure, I wish they had kept kind of the more gothic aesthetic that they had in this movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't mind the more realistic city in the sequels.
Yeah.
But the
Which-
Narrows in this looks like comics Gotham. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it
just
does.
gross.
It
Which,
does.
which, by the way, Tim, I don't know if you knew this, but like the like overhead shots of the slums of Gotham were used
Yeah.
as archive footage in Smallville.
Oh, okay. I
Oh,
didn't know
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I remember
That makes
for
sense.
Su-
Yeah,
for
that makes
Suicide
sense.
Yeah,
Slums.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Suicide Slums. Yeah, but I guess that one scene I was alluding to, where I think Bale is really good. It's both the scene. There's actually two scenes. It's the scene where Rachel takes him into the slums of Gotham, and she's like telling him about like Falcone, and then she finds out that he has the gun and he was going to kill Joe Chill at the hearing.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and you could just see the look of embarrassment on his face. Like he's just so good at expressing that without saying any words. But then also when he's at that hearing, when he's actually going to kill Joe Chill, and then somebody beats him to it, he's like, "Oh fuck, what the hell just happened?" Like he is really good in those two scenes particularly.
Well, I think casting Christian Bale. I mean, like you guys said, he's the center of that movie. And he's the center of all the movies. I mean, he's Batman and Bruce Wayne, but he is definitely, I would argue, by far the best overall actor to play Batman.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
and
would
you know,
agree.
overall, just with his range and everything he can do. I mean, you know, you got his career. He's a chameleon. He completely transforms his body, his appearance. I mean, the stuff that Christian Bale has pulled off. I mean, he was perfect to play Batman.
Yeah,
And I remember even like Pat, you know, years ago, I was watching like behind the scenes of Batman Begins, and people were like, "Oh my God, when we saw Christian in the bat suit, like it wasn't Christian. It was like literally, it was Batman."
we
You know?
wanted the bat nipples, but they weren't there.
Hey, don't forget Nighthawk, okay?
Why are we shitting on Joel Schumacher? Okay, the man
Sorry,
is dead.
God, rest in peace. Rest in peace. Joel.
Joel Schumacher.
Listen, he
movie's
tried.
sucked.
He
He was doing
apologized.
what he was
He
instructed to
apologized.
do by the
He
studio.
said
Oh,
he just wanted to entertain, and he apologized.
you know
to
what?
everyone.
Phone booth wasn't bad. That was his only decent movie.
Oh, Lost
Lost
Boys.
Boys.
Lost Boys is
I
great.
guess, yeah, Lost Boys is okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you? Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so we have some other castings in this movie too. Sirius Black, Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon, who
Perfect.
I think
Perfect
it's great. I think it's a great Gordon. I love Gary Oldman and everything. And like the casting aside from Katie Holmes, is just
Was
How
fantastic.
dare you?
I always hate that line where she like tases.
You never
the guy.
liked
She's
Katie
like,
Holmes before. Sorry.
Dawson's Creek.
I always hate that line where she like threatens the guy with the taser, and she's like, "Yeah, you better run." I'm like, what the hell kind of delivery was that?
What
She's a
about
terrible actress?
what about when they cast Jack Gleason, the future Joffrey Baratheon, as that
As
little
that
kid
little
on the
kid, yeah.
fire escape?
Yeah,
Perfect casting.
I
Perfect.
love that. Yeah,
I
but
keep telling my friends about you. No one believes me. And then a couple years later, the whole world will be flipping that kid off.
who would have ever known, right? But
Uh,
when Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, that's where like the movie just takes off from there. The
Oh, big time.
introductory scene with him as Batman,
Yeah.
you know, like
Where are you?
Where are you?
I like how they obscure him for the first part of that scene too,
Yeah.
and then they finally reveal him when he's like, "I'm Batman."
Yeah, when he pulls Falcone up through the car roof.
Oh, great scene.
Yeah,
Sam
Right, you know
Wilkinson,
what,
by the
though?
way, shout out.
I almost like the next shot just as much when he just kind of goes like, I'm Batman, and then he grabs him, and he goes like flying up, and you're like, where the heck did they go?
but then
Like,
he looks back at the homeless guy and he's like, "Nice coat."
Yeah, man, that's what we're talking about right there.
This
Yeah.
movie, I think the writing is underrated. Like, I love little moments like when Bruce, like, you know, the callbacks where he comes back and he's like a kind of like, they're all of the board members think he's dead, and he's like, sorry to disappoint. And like later too, with,
Oh, wait,
with
is that what- is
Rutger
that-
Hauer,
Oh
did
yeah,
you get the memos?
Mr. Earl, yeah. Morgan
Well,
Edge.
I think the writing is the strength of the movie.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, I think, like we're talking about Gary Oldman playing Commissioner Gordon. I like how in this one, like in some of the older movies growing up, like Commissioner Gordon didn't do anything.
I
Like,
know,
you know what I mean? Like he
exactly.
put the bat signal on a couple of times and said, Batman, where are you?
Dun,
But
dun, dun, and that was
but
it.
in this movie, they go back to the close relationship between Batman and Commissioner Gordon or Lieutenant Gordon or whatever in the comic books, where they're really working like kind of hand in hand and like have a relationship.
Which the rest of the trilogy and the new one with Robert Pattinson made the smart decision to keep.
Well, yeah, I think Batman Begins is where people really started to respect Gordon as a character.
Yeah, you
'Cause
better.
Then they made that Gotham show, which was just like Gordon's like as the main character. So like, I
That's
think
the point.
that was the
all
start.
right.
I think people actually respected Commissioner Gordon as a character outside the comics.
Yeah.
Was Batman.
Yeah, you know, something that I see with this movie is that it gets criticism for how the action is filmed because a lot of people say the choreography is not that great.
Very close up. I'll give it that. It's very, you can't really tell what's happening sometimes.
Yeah, but I've seen people say it's quick cutting. I'm like, I don't think it's quick cutting at all.
Yeah.
You know?
I just think that the style they chose for Batman's fighting in this trilogy, which is, I forget, Krav Maga or something, where it's like very elbowy, very like elbow strikes, close quarters. It doesn't really lend itself that well to like cool shots of like punching people or kicking people.
It's almost like he's like blocking more or something.
Yeah, and he's just beating people's asses like pretty quick. But I do like the part in this one where he's like, predictable, don't you have anything new? And then he goes, how about this? And he breaks the sword. That shit's awesome.
Well, I like it, and I think like I kind of like the fact like I actually kind of like the style of fighting in Batman Begins because it's not like this pretty thing. It's not this pretty like, oh, this is kung fu like Bruce Lee like.
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's not fantastical or anything.
No,
it's not Val
like,
Kilmer in the nightclub kicking people.
Yeah. And, you know, don't forget the bat nipples. But I mean, like, it's like this guy is just starting out too.
Right.
You know, becoming the Cape Crusader, this iconic character, and it's like you almost wanted to be a little bit kind of like tougher and kind of like not, more up close and personal because he's still kind of trying to figure stuff out too. You know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The actual story of this movie too is really, really good. And the crazy thing is too is it's like you think the League of Shadows are gone throughout most of this movie. You think it's going to be more about like taking down like Falcone and the corrupt cops and Scarecrow and what he's doing with the fear toxin, and then
Scarecrow
all
was phenomenal. By the way,
yeah,
Cillian Murphy was
which he
incredible.
auditioned for Batman, but he didn't get it. But they were like,
that would have been weird.
It would have been super weird.
He's a great actor, but he's better at playing like
Would you like to see my
nefarious characters.
Yeah.
I couldn't picture him as Batman.
Dr. Crane is not
For-
in.
That's
but
our medicine.
make an appointment.
Would you like
Perhaps
to-
you
yeah.
should have some to
He's
clear your
here. Who? The Batman.
head.
Yeah, he was a great casting.
Is
Yeah.
it true what they say about him? Can he really fly?
But yeah, no, I just love how like the League of Shadows, like it's literally just like the first 20 minutes of the movie and then the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
But then you kind of suspect something's up because about halfway through they're like, oh, this microwave transmitter, so it's like, wait, what does this have to do with taking down Falcone and Scarecrow?
And they mention Crane mentions that he has someone that he's working for. You
Yeah,
know, like,
exactly, right, yeah,
But then you don't think it's Ra's al Ghul though. I mean, because you're
right,
thinking
exactly.
the way the story's set up, it's like, okay, Ra's al Ghul was here in the beginning and he died, and it's kind of like, giving Batman but I like that twist where it's kind of like the people that made him Batman, or at least help him become Batman, are actually
villains.
there to destroy the very city that he loves,
yeah,
that he's trying to save. So it's like the people who gave him the tools to
Right,
make him Batman are then at the same time the ones coming to destroy his city,
right,
which
Yeah.
I think is a really cool twist at the end.
exactly. Yeah, it just brought the whole League of Shadows thing like back to the forefront, which was totally unexpected.
is Ra's al Ghul immortal? Is he
Oh gosh,
supernatural?
Liam
If,
Neeson,
if a man stands in the way of true justice, you simply walk up behind him and stab him in the heart. Like that's such a good scene. Like,
I think it's almost like too. What I love about it too, especially at the end when he's fighting the real Ra's al Ghul, and it's like it's almost kind of like heartbreaking. You could tell.
little
You could
bit.
tell like Bruce really cared about this man, and
Yeah.
you can also tell that this man really cared about Bruce.
And
yeah,
then
he wanted him to be part of it.
And then
Yeah.
you also have to take into account that Ra's al Ghul has that line where he's like, "This man left me for dead." It's like, wait, that's not true. Like he's twisting events around that.
Like
was all
good villains do. Like good villains always do.
Right. All right. I think this is gonna wrap up Batman Begins. What would you guys give Batman Begins on a A to F or a 1 to 10 scale? You can go either or.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'd probably give Batman Begins like an A minus. I really like it a lot. I love the very end where it teases the Joker. And I remember as a kid, I thought that was just leading into the '89 Batman, even though that doesn't make any sense in like the continuity. I was like, oh, it's a prequel.
Yeah,
But-
in the next one, Jack Nicholson's gonna pop up and be like, "You ever heard of the healing power of laughter? Now get out of here!"
yeah, that totally. Then the next movie, Gotham's gonna look like completely different. We're suddenly in the 30s.
Yeah. We're gonna have the Danny Elfman theme all of a sudden.
Great theme. That's a
Oh,
great theme.
Dude, that's another thing. Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard's score for all three of these movies.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent.
Underrated.
would-
Underrated.
yeah.
Like I know the theme's just kind of like.
No,
it
but
fits
that dun, dun,
Dun, dun,
dun,
dun,
dun, dun, dun, like that's so good.
It
Oh,
fits
yeah, real
Batman
good.
though. That's the thing.
I would say I would probably give Batman Begins a 9 out of 10. I really think it's a good film. There's only a couple of things I don't like about it. Katie Holmes.
Yeah, I think
but
that's my big. I think that's my big problem. I
But
look
there's not, there's not really a lot of complaints about Batman Begins
no.
when you think about it.
exactly. Yeah, I'd probably go A, and I think I would go A plus if it weren't for Katie Holmes because I think her performance isn't that great, and I just don't buy her as a DA.
No.
Guys, you're gonna kill me for this, but I actually prefer her to Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Well, I actually think it's side note. I think it's actually kind of cool that both the Gyllenhaal siblings and Maggie Gyllenhaal's husband were in superhero movies, because she's in The Dark Knight, he's in Spider-Man: Far From Home, and then her husband plays Gil Coulson in The Batman. Peter Sarsgaard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, that's her
Okay.
husband. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. All right, we are going to be moving into The Dark Knight from 2008, and
Terrible movie.
yeah,
But, Alex, I never thanked you.
why? Because I
You'll
said
never
that it's
have
better. Oh.
You never have.
You never have to. Yeah.
And then, well, that's like the greatest ending of a Batman movie.
Oh,
Either.
yeah.
Never
No,
happened.
good.
Then he goes flying down. I mean, that was a great ending.
Yeah.
And just the
It
setup.
reminded
the
me of
setup
Yeah.
The setup of the idea of escalation of if you start acting, people are gonna respond to you. So
Yeah.
crazier people are gonna do crazier shit to match you. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what happens.
And I will say this: I think it ranks probably, I don't know, with Dark Knight and maybe the first Batman with Michael Keaton as one of the best endings. You know, when Michael Keaton's up there in the bell tower, it's like, dun, 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 like that is a great ending. And then this one too, where he swoops down, that's a great ending. And then I would say Dark Knight's great too. We're gonna talk about that soon, so I don't want to.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that now because Dark Knight is a bona fide masterpiece. This had so much hype behind it. Heath Ledger as the Joker. Rest in peace, my man. I mean, that sparked a lot of hype as well, and that hype was totally warranted.
It took a while though for that hype to happen. When he was first cast, a lot of people, including myself and Tim, and probably you, Alex, were all like, Heath Ledger as the Joker, the pretty boy from the Patriots.
I think it's because the teaser was only like the picture of the Joker card, and you just heard him go, "Starting tonight, people will die. I'm a man of my word." But I don't remember if you heard his laugh in that trailer or not.
Oh yeah, you did.
I couldn't picture him. And then when they released that first picture,
yeah, you heard that laugh. Yep.
Yeah.
They released the first picture, which was just a concept like picture of him like in a black background with his face. It was like, okay, what the hell is that? But then when the first like actual trailer came out and you got to see him in action,
like,
it was like, holy shit! Like this is gonna be good.
It's still the best performance I've seen in a superhero film to date, and it's the Joker performance to beat. Yes. I love Joaquin as Joker in Joker, but it is not as good as Heath.
Not even close. Not even close.
Not even close. I love Jack Nicholson as the Joker too, but Heath Ledger, just live action Jokers, Heath Ledger. Like it's.
I would say.
Go ahead. Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, to kind of. I can kind of hear myself. Oh, hold on. So, kind of bounce on what you were saying. I kind of felt with Pat. I was very concerned when I first heard about Heath Ledger. And I saw the Joker film that came out a few years ago. I do think Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor. I do. Overall, I think he's a very talented actor. Mm-hmm. But when Heath Ledger was playing the Joker in Dark Knight, Heath Ledger wasn't even there.
Right.
His acting was so phenomenal. It was like I remember watching it, and it was like the Joker literally came off the page of the comic book.
Right.
And
it's a completely different version of the Joker from the comics.
Yeah, but it was like Heath Ledger was not recognizable.
Right. Exactly.
At all.
Exactly.
And it was I actually would argue, maybe this is kind of going over the top, I would argue it's one of the best acting performances in history.
Yeah. I would say so, because he has to like flip a switch in so many scenes, from going from like maniacally dark and sinister to like maniacally like darkly comic, you know, like, how about a magic trick? I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. Ta-da! It's gone. Like, everybody laughed at that scene. They're like, but you're like, are we supposed to be laughing?
We just watched a man die with a pencil.
Killed a guy. Yep.
Hey, but I'm just saying he did it before John Wick, so.
Yeah, the hype was crazy for this movie. I remember like just getting so excited. And then when the reviews started coming out, like it was crazy good reviews. Yeah. And then like the movie itself, a lot of people I think unfairly now in like hindsight go, oh, you know, Dark Knight's good, but it's only great because of Heath Ledger.
Exactly.
Like, if it didn't have Heath
Ledger,
it wouldn't be as good. No. It's like, yeah, but that's part of the movie. That's such a stupid argument.
Yeah, like,
oh, Star Wars didn't have Darth Vader, it wouldn't be as good. Oh, you don't say.
Yeah,
of course it would have been.
Yeah, and then the whole argument with that too is it's like, well, it's only good because of Heath Ledger, and where are the supervillains? I'm like, yeah, you don't need the supervillains in a movie that's essentially a crime drama starring Batman when he's trying to, you know, take down the mob and clean up the streets of Gotham. Like, we don't need a Hugo Strange in here. We don't need a Mr. Freeze here.
It had a Joker and Two-Face. That's already quite a bit.
Exactly.
I think with kind of the bag what you guys were saying. I mean, the movie itself. See, I think that is such, and I agree with both of you. It's such an unfair thing for people to say, because the script is fantastic. The writing is really well done.
Yeah.
The acting is overall really well done. I also thought Aaron Eckhart did a fantastic job as
where the hell is he now?
You know, but he's so overshadowed because of how iconic Heath Ledger's performance was. But like, the story is so good on top of it, and Heath Ledger just adds to that.
I wanna bring up the actual characterization of Joker in this, because I think the characterization of Joker just adds to Heath Ledger's legendary performance, because in this movie, Joker, like, he doesn't have like a set background. Like, there's a scene
Oh.
where, there's like a scene where he's like, "You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend." And then when he crashes Harvey Dent's fundraiser that Bruce is holding for him, he does the same thing. He's like, "You want to know how I got these scars? My mother, she couldn't stand the sight of me." It's like, holy shit! Like, everything he's saying is different all the time. It's just all bullshit.
Potentially bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, that's what I love so much about it. And then, like, you don't, like, you know that he has like scars on his face. You don't know how he got those scars. You know that he puts that white makeup with that red lipstick on. He's
Yep.
got the green hair, obviously. Like, I mean, that's a
Yep.
trademark. And the thing I love about Joker in this movie too is it's like, especially in the opening with the bank robbery, it's like,
yeah.
I was told after we get the money, I'm supposed to take out you. Oh, I was told the same thing. You know?
It's honestly, you could argue it's one of the best opening
Yeah.
scenes of definitely any superhero or even action film. In
The way-
history.
That one scene by itself in isolation is like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I know why they call him the Joker.
So why do they call him the Joker?
I heard he wears makeup.
Makeup?
Yeah, to scare people. You know, war paint.
They wired this thing up with like 5,000 volts. What kind of bank does that?
A mob bank. I guess the Joker's as crazy as they say. Where's the alarm guy?
Boss told me when the guy was done, I should take him out. One less share, right?
Funny, he told me something similar.
No!
It's a lot of money. If this Joker guy was so smart, he'd have had us bring a bigger car. I'm betting the Joker told you to kill me as soon as we loaded the cash.
No. I killed a bus driver.
Bus driver? What bus driver?
It's like,
It just-
holy shit.
It proves to you that this Joker is just a man who is going to get what he wants.
Yep.
Yep.
And he'll do it like just like the subtle little things in that scene. The fact he planned it to the minute to pull that bus out
Yeah.
as a traffic line of buses is going past the bank. To like, that's amazing. Like, that's just so like
Yeah.
crazy. But like,
Well,
And then for the first
scariest
half of
thing
that,
about
the first half
Joker to me
Oh.
is like
go ahead,
you were saying, Alex, like you don't have his full backstory.
Right.
So we don't know what he's
Yeah.
like when he's not showing up and causing fucking chaos. He
Yeah.
could be a normal dude who then every night goes and puts makeup on and goes and does crazy shit. He might have a military background. He's shooting bazookas. He
Yep.
seems to like
Yeah.
know
Yep.
like tactics. Like he's just, you don't know. And that makes him so much scarier.
Oh
and
yeah,
like
big time.
every time he shows up, you're like, where the hell did this guy
But then,
come
but like going back to what I was saying before too, it's like when he's doing like all that stuff that makes him scarier, he's just doing like small little things that like are funny, but like you're questioning whether or not you should be laughing. You know, like
Right.
when he blows up the hospital and he walks out, and then the rest of the hospital doesn't blow up, and he's like pressing the button on the detonator, and he's like, and he's just, and then like it blows up. You know, it's like that's funny, but it's
Yeah.
morbidly funny. You know.
I think kind of to add on both what you guys are saying about the character of Joker. I think what terrifies me about him in the film too is that, like you guys were saying, he could be anybody,
Right.
and it also torments at Batman because Batman is questioned. You can tell in the film he's kind of like, man, if I put the cape and cowl on, would this guy have ever existed?
Right.
If I never did that.
Yeah.
So
Joker.
he's a reaction. He's a reflection on Batman has made the criminal underworld desperate
yeah.
in Gotham, and they, like they said in the film, you know, like what Michael Caine says in the film Alfred, you know, they turned to a man they didn't understand because in their desperation. But that whole concept of would there be a Joker without Batman?
Yeah.
Right.
And I
think
think
it's
I
such a
think
great thing.
I think it plays into the theme of the movie too. I think all three of these movies actually have their own themes within them. Like Batman Begins, the theme is fear. This one is the chaos, and I think Joker plays into like him saying like is like would Batman or would Joker exist without Batman? I think the fact that Batman does exist, I think it just plays into that theme of chaos more, where it's like Batman existing is the result of Joker's creation, which is further an escalation of chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah.
And I love the way too this movie, like it's just such a intense film from the get-go, and there's, like,
Oh,
energy to every
dude.
scene, like, it never lags, there's
Within the
always something happening.
within the first 10 minutes alone, there's like 4 different things that happen. It's
Mhm.
amazing.
It just keeps up that energy all the way up until, like,
Yeah.
you get to, like, the Harvey Gordon Batman scene at the end, and it's like you see how this got to this point where these at the beginning of the movie, these 3 guys get together and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna clean up Gotham, we're gonna bring down the Joker," and
Yeah.
then you just see which I think people don't talk about, this movie is about sure, the Joker's a major part in it, but he's more of a force of nature than the main characters are Bruce, Jim, and Harvey.
Harvey, yep.
It's that trio, which is why the movie ends on that trio. It's about 3 guys trying to do the right thing and
Yep.
being up against insurmountable odds. And that's why, you know, what happens to Harvey happens to Harvey. Like, it's unfortunate.
Rachel!
Like, I mean, the way they handle Two-Face, like, you run a risk if you introduce a character in a movie and then by the end of the movie he becomes his villain alter ego and he's dead, like, you run the risk of being like, did we just waste Two-Face? Did we just
Yep.
shoehorn him in at the end? But this
didn't,
movie
though.
handles it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the fact I like too that I don't know if this ever really has ever been done in any of the other Batman movies, not to my knowledge, and please correct me, guys, if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
But the fact that we have one of the villains that basically created another.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
you know, the Joker, you know, it gave birth to Two-Face because of obviously what he was doing, you know, in Gotham with these 3, you know,
Yeah.
and he saw Harvey as basically, in my opinion, what I think is so interesting about Dark Knight 2 is that Joker wanted to either kill Harvey or scar Harvey so much that he couldn't continue on his crusade. And Joker saw actually Harvey as probably the most important out of all 3, Batman and Gordon.
100%.
He saw Harvey as honestly the real hero of the future for Gotham.
You were the best of us.
Exactly.
This is definitely the one where
Ah,
Christian Bale's throat cancer voice comes in.
Well, like, okay,
Oh,
so
he's still great as Batman.
listen, he's still great. The problem is in this movie, he's Batman like way more than he
Too
was
much,
in Batman
yeah.
Begins. So it just becomes more grating because he's
Oh, yeah.
talking way more as
Oh,
Batman.
yeah.
You love me. Did you think everyone was as crazy as you? You're alone.
Where are they?
Like, I mean, that's the thing though. Bruce, people act like Bruce Wayne, they're like, oh, Bruce isn't a big part of this movie because Joker is.
Yes,
No,
he is.
Bruce,
Huge
his
part,
whole
huge
plot
part.
line is everyone is what Tim was saying. Joker's major piece in the game that he wanted to move was Harvey. Bruce also is focused on Harvey because that's his get out ticket.
So
He
it
goes,
doesn't
if
be
I
Batman
get
anymore.
Harvey
Yep.
to clean up Gotham, I can give up being Batman. Because look at this guy. He's
Yeah.
taking out the mob.
He's got to be
taking out
Gotham's
people.
White Knight.
He
Yeah,
took
like-
my girlfriend.
So it's all about this fight for Harvey, and it turns out where it reflects in the end. You got the good half of Harvey, you got the burned up, chaotic side of Harvey, because Batman and Joker were fighting over Harvey, really, and then that's what happens. And poor Jim Gordon, is stuck in the middle trying to navigate everything.
Yep.
You know where Harvey Dent is? You know where Harvey Dent is?
You know where Harvey is?
I mean, it's all handled so well, and I think people don't give it enough credit. That's what makes
Yeah.
the movie so good. There's so much going on. It constantly is going and moving, and all the characters are handled really well. I don't love that they like Rachel Dawes as a character. I've never really loved. I think Nolan in
Was
general.
she made up for the Nolan ones?
Yes.
Okay. That's
I think Nolan in general. I think his movies underutilize female characters to say the least.
Mhm.
And I think, while it's important to Harvey and Bruce that like she dies, it's just kind of unfortunate that really that's all Rachel's really there for is
Yeah,
that she's
kinda,
there
yeah.
to die.
Except she wrote Bruce a letter, and what if instead of giving him that letter, I bind that letter to spare him the pain?
We're not talking about the third one yet.
I would just to kind of say everything what you guys have been saying too, and I like too how I kind of like the back. I don't know. Obviously, timing is everything in films sometimes too. But like, I like kind of the fact that Joker is also kind of what you guys were playing off of, but the fact he could be anybody,
Mhm.
and the fact that he's almost like a symbol of like, what has our society become that we've created some guy
he's
like this.
he's trying to come up. It seems like he's like trying to come up with his own morals. That like it seems like society's kind of going down like. When you think about it today, it's like society's starting to become like morally like wrong. It seems like And
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah.
and it seems like Joker's kind of like riding that fine line or going further down that morally wrong road. Which I mean,
Yeah.
he's a villain, so
And I kind of like the fact too, like you know, a lot of the other Batman movies, like you know, the villains had some kind of silly, you know, kind of objective. We're gonna put, you know, missiles on penguins and stuff.
Hey.
But but
We're gonna kidnap the firstborns first.
yeah, you know,
take all the fastballs, round them all up.
you know, kind of silly shit like that. But the Joker, it's
this
like,
is your brain on the box. This is my brain on the box. Does anyone else feel like a fried egg?
yeah, thank you. You guys are just proving my points. You know, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. I mean,
sing louder,
I mean, you know, just silly shit. But what I love about like Joker is that he really just wants to fuck everything up, and he just wants to see what happens when you push good people to the limit. And it's kind of disturbing to think about, like, these great men being pushed to the limit. Like, what are we capable of as human beings if we were pushed to the limit like that? And I think that's what the Joker's whole story is about, is that human beings, we got a lot of great qualities in us, and then we also have a lot of bad and dark qualities in us too, you know?
Right.
So,
I mean, that's I think the brilliance of the fairy sequence, like that whole. You don't know as an
I
audience.
always used to forget that sequence existed.
You don't know if both those boats are gonna blow up if they press the button. You don't know if they're gonna blow up their own boat.
Yeah,
You don't know if they're gonna
exactly.
blow up the other people's boat. You have no idea. Joker could just be messing with them.
and I've realized this on like my last couple of rewatches because I used to like Dark Knight Rises more, but I've now come around to putting Dark Knight above it. And I was never huge on that fairy scene, but I've started to really love that fairy scene because of
So
that.
intense.
Yeah, it's so intense. And that
right.
the thing Batman does with it in his cowl, is that detective mode?
Hold on. Did you just say you like Dark Knight Rises better than Dark Knight?
At one point.
Oh my
Up until
god!
recently.
What?
Up until very recently.
Up until very
Wow.
recently. Yeah. No, I these past couple watches for Dark Knight for me, I don't know. I've always found myself gravitating more towards like supervillains, but when it came to my last couple rewatches of The Dark Knight, I just think that the pacing was just a lot. It flowed a lot more, and the story, like I don't think when I first saw this movie, like I don't think my brain was actively like working all that much because I was like, there's a lot of story here that like I have to follow, but like I've noticed on the past couple rewatches, I've been following it like a lot more easily, and it's
That's cool.
it's the best Batman story, I think, and
yeah.
I love that they either bring in or mention other characters from the comics. Like you have Eric Roberts as Salvatore Maroni.
Yep.
He's great. He's so
he's
good.
great in it.
It's
Yeah,
a
he's
small
great in it.
performance. From this height, the fall wouldn't kill me.
Yeah.
I'm counting on it.
Like
I got it.
I don't know if you guys watch any. I mean, Pat, I know you watch some of the animated Batman movies. I don't know if you do, Tim, but
Oh yeah,
I mean,
dude. I've watched all the man. I've seen the Mask of the Phantasm. I've seen Sub-Zero.
Well,
I was born in the '80s, man.
two of them that I would recommend: Long Halloween Parts 1 and 2, because that has to do with a serial killer killing on every holiday, but it's also related to the Maronis. And so I think that's why Dark Knight struck a chord with me on these past couple of watches too.
Oh, okay.
But because I was like, okay, so like I know who the Maronis are. Salvatore Maroni's in this movie. He's mentioned in the Batman. I'm like, so I like how we're bringing a lot more comic book lore into.
He's also mentioned in Batman Forever in a videotape scarring Harvey Dent.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's the one who throws the thing at Harvey Dent's face.
Speaking of Harvey Dent, I just got to say this for a minute. Poor Billy D did not get his chance to play Two-Face.
I know.
That's racism. That's what Jesse Jackson was talking about.
Exactly, yeah.
But no, I think, too, just Two-Face, by the way, like his like the mix of CG and I think a little bit of prosthetic stuff.
You can't even tell it's CG.
So good. It's so horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's heartbreaking too, because you look at Harvey Dent and and well, we'll get to the Dark Knight Rises here in a minute, but he was such a person that people looked up to, and the whole idea of that, like, Batman is maybe this temporary thing that Pat was talking about before, and like Batman's done a lot of good, but is he really in the end the person who's really going to change Gotham? And truly in Dark Knight, what I love about it too is that Bruce is like, no, it's not me, it's Harvey, really, in the end.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it again so heartbreaking, the fact that Harvey turns into that kind of guy, and you can't really almost blame him. I mean,
it's so amazing how quickly the movie makes that flip from Harvey Dent to Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face, and how it just rolls with it until the end, and how quick it does it and how well it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. No, I would say I would argue to the day I die, and hopefully it's many years from now. Dark Knight, I still think is probably overall the best. I mean, at least DC movie, maybe even one of the best, comic book movies of all time. I don't know how you can argue against that, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it a superhero movie? That's the question, or is it
Yeah.
more
Oh,
of
yeah.
a crime drama?
it's both.
It's both.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Just
where I
like
put it.
the Batman is a superhero movie and a mystery noir
Yeah, it's
movie.
both. You can
Exactly.
be more than one. You can be more than one.
Exactly. Yep. I'm
But
with
I
you
will
guys.
say my one small criticism with The Dark Knight, and this is really a criticism for the whole trilogy as a whole. And I know
Extra actors?
I've talked to Tim about this. The extras in these movies are atrocious.
The
Okay,
who?
They are.
the extras, the
Oh,
minor characters that have little lines, like that one guy. Like, are you
No
saying
more
that
dead
to
cops.
protect the vigilante than the lives of citizens? He should turn himself in.
No more
Like,
dead cops, Pat.
no more dead cops. And then that one dude annoys the shit out of me, who's with Gordon in the armored truck during the whole chase. That's what I'm talking about. Air Cav. Like, they're just not good actors.
Is it as bad as Matthew Modine in Dark Knight Rises, though?
Yes. Well, he's also awful in that.
We're gonna take down
you
the
know,
Batman.
I agree with you guys, though. I would say that is my one big criticism of just this whole great trilogy.
I
is the
haven't picked up on
extras.
that.
You haven't?
No.
The
God, you
extras
gotta
are
watch
so
them
bad.
again.
No. Yeah, I mean, because when Pat just said that, the only thing that popped into my mind is playing the Arkham games where, like, the goons are like, it's the Bat!
Dude, those games were awesome, by the way. Like,
I know, they were great. Yeah,
I think the best scene of this movie, though, is we haven't mentioned the interrogation scene. Is a
Oh, yeah.
classic.
yeah.
It's just so good.
classic, iconic.
So
I just want my phone call. Never go over my head.
good.
I just love how it's like you think Batman's in control of the situation, and he's
It's like he
totally,
could literally kill Joker in that scene.
and he's like totally out of control. And it's funny too because you think like, well, wait a minute, this is only like halfway through the movie. Oh my God, they got Joker, but it's like he's got to get out of this somehow.
And it's the one scene in the trilogy. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, where Gordon is literally like, "Holy shit! Like, what the fuck is Batman doing?"
Yep. And I love the fact that even when it seems like Batman maybe won the scene, like Joker tells him the information,
Yeah.
he told him, you'll notice, the wrong information on purpose. He
Yep.
told him Harvey's address when he switched them because
Yeah,
he knew
exactly.
Batman would go for Rachel.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it was,
He knew
it was
he
pretty
knew he
cute.
had a thing. He knew he either knew Rachel. He knew from that scene in the beginning of the not the beginning of the film, but the Harvey's party there where he remember because the way you flung yourself after her, like he knew that Batman had some kind of feelings for her. You know?
And he wanted Harvey to survive and have to suffer with that loss
Right.
rather than he knew they wouldn't be able to get the Rachel. And if you look at those scenes, Harvey's in like an empty room pretty much with like a barrel of like whatever oil,
Yeah.
and like Rachel's in the middle of some dark storage unit. Like who knows if Gordon and those guys would have been able to even get in there? Like
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
yeah, it's a brilliant movie. It feels like a big crime epic, but it's also a Batman movie. And people will say, that it hinges on the Joker, but every big movie hinges on some performance. If Yoda didn't work in The Empire Strikes Back, The Empire
wouldn't have been
Strikes
nearly
Back
as
wouldn't
good.
have worked.
Right.
It's
Think about Empire Strikes Back could have been a disaster if Yoda was not a believable character.
if he was just a Muppet, that would be
Yeah.
not
Which he
as,
kind of is at first because he's just going
Sure.
through Luke's stuff, but then it's like, do or do not.
But you forget that he's a puppet as you're
Yeah.
watching. It
I
just
know you
feels
do.
like
Yeah,
a
you do.
character.
Exactly.
But you know what I like too, and because I know we got to do Dark Knight Rises, but just one more thing about Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I love the ending, how it's like Batman is taking the fall,
Right.
and I love how it's like I'm like, oh my God, like I couldn't wait. That's what a great movie does so well, and I think what the Dark Knight does so well. When he is driving on his motorcycle and it's at the end and it goes din din, it's like directed by Christopher Nolan, and you're like, you cannot wait until the next movie because
Well,
you're like, what the hell is going to happen? Batman is taking the fall for Harvey. He's on the run. He's a
Yeah.
fugitive. Like, what is
Right.
going to go on here?
yeah, there's a little detail I think you guys probably picked up on it that relates to the Dark Knight Rises, where you see Batman limping at the end.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
From his fall.
he's messed up from the fall. I think.
Yep.
Yep.
So with that said, I mean, oh wait, we got to grade the movie. I mean, I think it's unanimously A plus, 10 out of 10 for all three of us. So,
For sure.
I would say it's pretty much
11
yeah,
out of 10. Actually.
Yeah, I mean it's very well done, very well done. It reminds me of. I know you guys may disagree with me, but my favorite original of the Star Wars trilogy is Empire Strikes Back. I just think that's the best movie. And I do think overall Dark Knight is the best movie in this trilogy, being the middle film. Sure.
Yeah. All right, and now we move into the third movie, released in 2012, a movie that Christopher Nolan wasn't even sure if he was going to make at one point because he was like, I don't know if I can top The Dark Knight. And I think if you're following up The Dark Knight, like I don't think you're gonna top it.
No, and I think honestly, and I know we're gonna talk about this, but I think The Dark Knight Rises is overall a good movie, and I think it's a good ending. But I think that's kind of what hurt it, like right in the very beginning, is that you're trying to top such an iconic, celebrated film. I mean, it's almost impossible to be as good as Dark Knight.
I think that's probably the reason why I put it above Dark Knight or one of the reasons I put it above Dark Knight for a while was because I think I just got caught up because this was at a time where third movies in a trilogy were not good. Like, so it was like, other than like Toy Story,
Transformers 3, Transformers
Dark in the
3
Moon
sucks.
Yeah, but like at this time, it was just like you had
Rocky 3 sucks.
X-Men 3, Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
Oh my
Back to the
God!
Future
Don't get me
3.
started.
Yeah, you always had the two great first movies in a trilogy, and usually the second one was better, and then you could just never stick the landing with the third one. I think I just
Godfather 3, right there.
Yep. I think I just got caught up in how satisfactory The Dark Knight Rises was, where I was like, oh my God, like that's actually a good third movie. And I think that's why I put it above Dark Knight for a while. But now I've come back to earth smartly, and I now know that Dark Knight's better. But I still,
thank God, we can be
I
family
know
again.
you guys only think Dark Knight Rises is good, but I still really love Dark Knight Rises.
I think it's good. I think it's a good Batman movie. I just, we'll talk about it here in a minute.
Yeah, going into this, so it takes place 8 years, which kind of doesn't really make all that much sense after The Dark Knight, because it's like, why doesn't Bruce Wayne look like he's like older? Why is like Gordon still look the same?
Gary Oldman doesn't age, baby. Gary Oldman.
Listen, if Michael Fassbender can look the same in the 1960s X-Men as he does in the X-Men set in the 1990s, and doesn't age a day.
That's true.
Hey, you see Will Smith these days? Will Smith still looks real good. So I mean,
he does.
Keanu Reeves looks the same as he did in 1994.
Keanu Reeves is the man.
I love John Wick, but back to Batman.
No, I think it was ambitious to set it 8 years after The Dark Knight, have Bruce Wayne be a recluse, have Batman just completely gone, which kind of doesn't make sense because it's like, can't people put two and two together?
Right, yeah. Bruce Wayne's become a recluse, and Batman's become a recluse too.
I think
people are dumb, man. The public is dumb.
They are. They really are. This is probably going to be a point of contention for maybe me and you two, but how they like coming full circle with the League of Shadows, ambitious.
Yeah, I like
you
that.
guys probably don't think it sticks the landing. I think it mostly sticks. I think it mostly sticks the landing. I have a couple of problems with it.
I'll tell you what. It would have stick the landing if they had Bane as actually not someone's bitch in like the real.
There it is.
Sorry.
Like every time I watch Dark Knight Rises, like I know that that's what happens, but it never crosses my mind.
Because he is built up throughout the whole movie as this unstoppable force.
Yeah.
The second Bruce Wayne comes back from a serious injury, he gets
all of y'all sit there.
He shows up and Batman whoops Bane's ass easily, which is bad enough. But then Talia all of a sudden goes, I'm Talia al Ghul, here to finish my father's work, but I hated my father, but I'm here to finish his work. I'm like, your motivations don't make sense.
I don't think
down two notches.
For me, I don't think it's necessarily Bane or like him becoming the henchman.
Speak of the devil, he shall appear.
I think it's more just Marion Cotillard. Like, I don't think she's that good of an actress.
Bane went from being this scary figure. Bane went from being the scary figure that broke Batman's back to being the guy that goes, I'm her protector, and then he gets shot and dies. Like, it's so lame. It's
Let's
such a
not stand
letdown.
on ceremony
Bane
here,
in the
Mr.
third
Wayne.
act is a letdown. After he blew up the stadium, he lost everything.
But-
He
but let me-
became a shit character by the end of the movie.
Let me
Yeah, he
ask you
did.
this though: does The Dark Knight Rises feature the greatest halftime show in NFL history?
Oh,
Listen,
he definitely.
gotta love those Gotham Guardians or whatever the hell they were called.
Are they the Gotham Knights or something? I can't
Yeah,
even remember.
something like that.
The Gotham Dark Knights? I don't know.
Okay, like, besides Bane not sticking the landing, I think Tom Hardy, despite being whitewashed from the character in the comics, who was from, like, I believe, South America.
He was
I
from
didn't
South
even know that.
America, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we can't have a South American guy playing shit.
No, so I mean, Tom Hardy does a great job in the role,
Yeah.
and it's a very memorable performance. I just
Yeah.
think the character, by the end of the direction they took the character, let him down. By the
Yeah,
end of the
I mean,
movie.
I'm not gonna say I agree. I do agree. I do agree. It's just something that doesn't cross my mind when I'm watching it. You know,
Like, you
I
don't
know
notice
that's
the
what
fact that
happens.
he whoops Batman's ass in the first fight
Oh, yeah,
easily. And
easily.
then the second fight, he's like, oh God, my thing. And then he
Yeah.
gets immediately beaten.
Well,
and then
that fight
Talia
should have
just-
been longer, first of all, and second of all, Batman should not. When Bane was like, "So you came back to die with your city," Batman should not have responded with, "No, I came back to stop you."
Okay, let me take a look. Tell you a little bit about Bane. I was obsessed with Bane when I first saw the movie. I thought it was an awesome
Summer
villain.
2012, everyone spoke like this.
Yeah, you know, Bane would have loved the pandemic because he would have fit right in with his mask. But I agree with Pat and what he's saying. Like, Bane was the super badass, and the first time in movie history, he's finally seen someone like kick Batman's ass.
Yeah, it wasn't like veiny green pickle from
No, and I'm
Batman
glad it
and
wasn't.
Bane.
I'm glad it wasn't. It wasn't the mentally challenged Bane.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of cool to see, like, holy crap, this guy just like beat the crap out of Batman in like 10 minutes, like easily whooped his ass. But then I agree with Pat. Like, once Bane does the whole take control of your shit, and he breaks the guy's neck, and then he goes to the Blackstone prison or Black whatever prison, and he's like,
Prison, yeah.
You
Black
accept
in
this
prison.
man's resignation?
He's like,
And the resignation of the corrupt?
this is a great example of this is a great example of injustice and inequality. And like, after all of that, he does nothing. Did you notice that in part of the scene where they're doing and I love how Cillian Murphy makes a cameo, but they're like, this is we're having you go to exile.
Or
and Bane is just over there. Bane is like crocheting or something. He's not doing anything. He's over there just like, I have nothing to say here in the court. I'm like, what is he doing?
I actually never noticed that he was in those
45 minutes.
You didn't need Talia al Ghul as a villain in this movie. Bane as an ex-member of the League of Shadows, just like Batman. The two of them as
I'll agree
ex-members.
I'll agree on that. I totally agree. I did Talia al Ghul in this movie.
They
sucked.
They nerfed Bane at the end of the movie, and then they introduced her as this third act twist. That makes no sense.
Okay.
That makes no sense.
Let me. I'm not throwing my support for this twist at all, but this was the first movie in a long line of movies from like 2012 to probably 2015, because this movie did it, Star Trek Beyond did it, or not Star Trek Beyond, Star Trek Into Darkness did it, Spectre did it, where it was like, oh, we're gonna cast this like somewhat known actor or actress to play this character that people are speculating is some iconic character from comic books or the past movies in the franchise, but we're gonna say it's really not. But only, I think the problem is this time, unlike in Into Darkness and Spectre, where that reveal that they are those iconic villains doesn't have an impact on the story or the plot. This one does, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, which isn't handled great, but at least it matters to these characters, because Khan shouldn't matter to those people in Star Trek, and him saying my name is actually Blofeld. Why should Bond give a shit? It's just for the audience.
I mean, and like too, it's like what you guys are saying. Bane is like, I like how the whole concept of, again, I like kind of how they went back to what you were saying, the League of Shadows again. Okay, but like the whole fact that Bane and Batman and Bruce are both really excommunicated or whatever, they're ex
Yeah.
That was perfect enough. How they're almost like again like a mirror image of each other. Like Batman, Bruce could have become Bane at some point. You know, like it could have happened. Kind of like, but like to then just like make Bane so insignificant at the end. Like he's like the puppy of Talia Ghul, and he's like crying, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what happened to Bane? What happened to this badass who Batman does one little like thing at the end, and he wins the fight? I'm like,
Yeah,
what
it was a cheap twist.
I definitely get it. I just think I take more issue with the fact that Talia al Ghul's in the movie. They disguise her as this person called Miranda Tate when we all know that she is Talia al Ghul, and that twist has an impact on the story. Like
Yep.
I can somehow I can overlook the shortcomings with Bane. I think the way he goes out is dumb, but I can somewhat overlook him just being relegated to a henchman. I cannot overlook the Talia al Ghul thing.
But let me ask you guys this though, because since we're talking about Dark Knight Rises, what is a better opening sequence? The bank robbery scene or the airplane scene at the beginning of Dark Knight Rises?
They're both really good, but
you know not what happened. They're probably wondering why you shoot them on before throwing them
and then
on
you
the
have
plane.
Littlefinger. At least you can talk.
Oh, dude, he was. You know what? He's a good actor. He was not good in that scene. He wasn't. He wasn't.
Listen,
The only problem he plays the same guy in everything.
I respect the filmmaking of that opening scene. I respect Nolan doing mostly everything in camera with practical effects. I respect the hell out of it.
I do too.
But
I
I
The
think
bank robbing scene is just too iconic.
the bank robbing scene is just amazing.
Definitely better.
And like echoes for a lot of this movie. I respect a lot of the filmmaking used to make this movie. I think there's just a few, like 5 or 6 important story beats that I think just either don't make sense or are dumb and a poor decision. Like the Talia thing, bad decision. Joseph Gordon-Levitt being a random cop, sure. Joseph Gordon-Levitt being a random cop who happened to be an orphan who could tell that Bruce Wayne was Batman just by looking at him.
That was stupid.
That's stupid.
That's stupid. I mean, stuff like that happens in a lot of movies, though. So I just
not like that, though. What other superhero movie does someone go up to someone and be like, "I knew it was you because I looked in your eyes"?
That was kind of silly.
What?
I mean, that was kind of silly. To be honest, how do you know just looking at someone's eyes that they're Batman? I mean, come on.
At least Batman Returns did the I'm saying something as Catwoman that I also say as Selena Kyle. So that at least there's that. Where this is I could tell because when I was 7 years old in the orphanage, I saw you and I could tell you're like me.
What do you guys think about his legal name being Robin?
I thought that was stupid. Because they didn't go anywhere with that. If they were gonna go somewhere, so for example, if Christopher Nolan was signed on for like a 4th movie, okay, and they were gonna go, and it was called like Robin Rises. I don't know, Robin Rises. Okay, but like you can't just like, oh, actually that's not my legal name, it's Robin. And then the end of the movie is going, and then you got Bruce and Catwoman in Milan Italy.
I never really viewed it like that. I never really viewed it like that, though. I just kind of always viewed it as like a little like nod,
It's a stupid nod, though, because Christopher Nolan needs to understand that there's been like 5 Robins, and none of them's legal name is fucking Robin. Okay, you got Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, Stephanie Brown. We are not talking about my born name is Robin. I'm like, shut up, you're not Robin.
Speaking of the ending, though, can we talk about the scene where Alfred sees Selena and Bruce in the cafe? Now, there's conspiracy theories.
Oh God, here we go. QAnon.
That is a dream sequence.
No,
I don't buy it at all.
I think it's a real.
Okay, because if it's a dream sequence, how the hell would Alfred know that Bruce is there with Selena Kyle? Like, how would he know what Selena Kyle looks like?
Because maybe it's not actually Selena Kyle, and it's just Alfred saying that he always wished he could see Bruce over there with a lady. And
before all this, before Batman, I used to take a holiday to Burma, and I used to sit at a cafe, and I'd always imagine that I would
say... The holiday wasn't in Burma. He was fighting the war in Burma.
Yeah, Burma was with the tangerines.
Or whatever.
Alex, the cafe was in, like, Italy somewhere, like Florence or somewhere.
He'd be like, I would picture that I would see you with maybe a wife and maybe a children or 2. And
I love Alfred.
And then we would we would see each other. You wouldn't acknowledge me. I wouldn't acknowledge you.
I know. It's that's not a dream though. People who say that, it's like, how? So what are they? I mean,
it's just connecting back to that little story that he told Bruce towards the beginning of the movie. Before Bruce was a dick and was like, "Goodbye, Alfred."
Man,
it's
that
a
scene,
nice
that scene,
sentiment.
honestly, that scene right there, guys. Sorry, Pat, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
I actually think that's one of the most heartbreaking scenes of the entire
It's a great
trilogy.
scene, but it's just like what.
I mean, you're
like,
feeling,
hey, Bruce,
I mean,
go fuck yourself.
for the first time in the whole trilogy, you're like, fuck you, Batman. Like, really?
You notice he's
and change your diapers, motherfucker.
It's not just that scene though. He's at odds with Alfred for like a good, I would say, or no, maybe it is just that scene because that's right after he returns as Batman. Because
like the whole movie of Dark Knight Rises, Alfred is like, are you sure you really should be doing this? You're not the same guy.
He's kind of at odds with Alfred for the most. of the movie.
Yep.
But just to take it back to that ending for a second, the only thing I don't like about it, because it's definitely real, because they go out of the way for Morgan Freeman to find out that the autopilot was fixed. So like you're like, but so the only problem I have with it though is while it's a nice sentiment, like it's a nice scene, it's a nice little
he survived.
Logistically, Bruce must have gone to that cafe every freaking morning until he saw Alfred. Because when does Alfred make it across the pond to go to that cafe? What if he never went back ever again?
I know.
The chance
of him actually seeing
how did Kylo Ren escape Starkiller Base?
They got spaceships, okay? They got like TIE fighters and shit.
Kylo Ren is just a Darth Vader wannabe. I hate that guy.
Yes, that's the point. But no,
we can do that. We can do Star Wars another time.
I just feel like Dark Knight Rises to me, like it goes bigger. Definitely, the stakes like they're like, oh, every bridge in the city's blown up.
Come off over a fifth.
and Gotham is in like isolation, and there's like freaking military that are trying to get in, and there's resistance fighters, and it's like okay, but then like you go from like an interesting psychological conflict at the end of Dark Knight with the fairies, and then in this, the big ending is. It's essentially Adam West with a bomb running around. Some days you just never know what to do with a bomb, and it's just an updated.
Where's the trigger?
Well, at the end of Dark Knight, it's literally when he's like, "What are we getting ready for?" And Batman's like, "We're getting ready for war." Like all it is just you're right. Like them just boom, like it's like Rocky IV going after Drago. It's just like a physical thing. But I mean, you're right, Pat. We're like I feel like the ending of Dark Knight was so much more clever and so much more like. Well thought out. This was just of course, we're just gonna like do this big freaking battle before this nuclear weapon blows up. Like
with every single cop in the city, and what's his face from Stranger Things, and they're like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's Stranger Things.
You also have what's his face, Ben Mendelsohn, Krennic. In this movie.
I will say this.
Playing the same douche he plays in most of his roles.
Exactly. Yep.
I know we're like really we've been crapping on Dark Knight Rises a lot.
I haven't
because it's not as good. I'll be frank. It's not as good as Batman Begins or Dark Knight.
Not as good as Batman Returns. I said it.
I still overall think like it was a good ending for that trilogy. It could have been worse. I don't really like Anne Hathaway that much. I thought she was actually a pretty good Catwoman.
She's really good as Selena Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was a really good Catwoman. I thought there were some positives of the film. Like, I kind of like the fact that,
dude, the bat, the vehicle, the bat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was I like the fact that Bruce kind of loses everything.
Yeah,
and I know that's about the whole like dark. He's Dark Knight.
They really they go into the stock exchange and really bankrupt Wayne.
I just like when he's like they're gonna cut the cable over, and then Bane's like time to go mobile. Yeah. Then they go mobile in the street, and they're like get on the motorcycle.
So I want to talk about the ending again for a minute. So let's just take out that whole Robin thing that you guys don't like.
Oh, that sucks.
It's awful.
But just disregard that for a minute. The rest of how the movie wraps up, like the statue of Batman, or it's like, oh, he actually is like the symbol of hope that Gotham.
I didn't like that statue. Could have been better.
It definitely could have been, but like, but Gordon finding out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, even though it's kind of weird where it's like, is Bruce Wayne really the only one he put a coat on?
Yeah. That's what I've always thought. Like,
I
haven't you
know.
comforted other kids?
Like, how do
Gordon?
you remember that one kid like 30 years before
You're a
that?
homicide detective. Like,
I
I'm
know.
sure you comforted other kids.
He's like, he remembers this one kid from 30 years ago. And it's like,
You put a coat on the shoulders of a small boy.
yeah, I know.
The world hasn't fallen apart on it. Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it's like, how does he know? I mean, he could have put, 30 years later, he knows that's Bruce Wayne just like that. I mean, I don't know.
But no, like other than the Robin stuff though, and aside from that little nitpick, like I do like how
Invaluable.
all the rest of the stuff does wrap up though.
I would say I mean, it ends. I think they do a good job of ending it. I kind of like the fact that they kind of show that Batman. I like the whole idea where he says to them like Batman could be anybody kind of thing, and how it's not really. I mean, it is about Bruce, but then it's also not about Bruce. It's like Batman came into existence because Gotham let itself get to that certain point, and I kind of like this whole conflict at the end too, where like Catwoman is kind of like, is this place really worth saving? Like to Batman, basically like asking him these kind of like really difficult questions. Like, you've already given so much to these people.
Right.
Like, do they really deserve it?
Yeah, exactly.
And, of course we're all like, oh my God, you have to save the city. You have to save the people. But it's like, there's also a part of you where it's like, Jesus Christ, like Batman has like given a lot for the people of Gotham. Like, I mean, what else more can he give? And he's like, what else do you get? What more, what else are you going to give these people? And he's like, you've given him everything. He's like, not yet, almost, but not yet. And it's like, I do like kind of that, because it makes you start thinking like, people aren't necessarily are it's like Gotham City that bad. And the fact that Batman still believes and is willing to give up his life at the end there for a city that's that corrupt and that, troubled, where the other side of the coin again, Bane, with all the same training as Bruce, is willing to blow himself up and everybody else. So Gotham is gone for good, So I kind of like that at the end, where you kind of like Catwoman might have a point, like
right. Yeah, I mean, I love a lot of the action in this movie too. It's definitely more of an action superhero movie than The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
but I've always loved the scene where Batman comes back, like when he's like on the Bat Pod, and the cops are like, "It's the Bat, we gotta go get him." And then you have Matt Modine, "I'm gonna take down the Batman." I hate Matt Modine in this movie.
Oh, he sucks in that movie too.
Yeah. But like
actually, oh, go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
That whole chase, and then the whole part where he meets Catwoman on the roof, and he's like, "No guns, no killing. What's the fun in that?" I like how they have different ideologies,
Yep.
I like the Bane and Batman fight, the visceral likeness of it.
I am the League of Shadows, where I shall prove destiny.
I do wish that he had used more of his gadgets than just a couple smoke bombs in his face. Like, hit him with a goddamn batarang or something. Stab him.
I know.
Like what are you doing?
And
I know he's rusty. He hasn't been Batman for 8 years, but Bane whooped the shit out of him.
For Christ's sake.
It was almost embarrassing. It was almost embarrassing when Batman's getting his ass kicked and he's in the corner and he tries to turn off the lights. You're like, that's a last resort right there.
You think the darkness is your ally.
Batman's getting the shit kicked out of him. He's like, I gotta turn off the lights. Where's the light button? Where's the light button?
He can't see me if I don't move in the dark.
That was almost embarrassing. You can't use a grappling hook to try to I don't know, get Bane up tied up or something.
I like that they did, because that's what Bane is most known for in the comics, is in the Nightfall storyline he breaks Batman's back. In the comics, it lasted longer, that's for sure. And it wasn't I love the scene where he has to climb the pit. That's a cool symbolic idea. But that
gets me pumped.
I don't like how quickly he just miraculously gets back to Gotham with no money. He
it's
gets back to Gotham and then he whoops Bane's ass. It's just not earned. It's not earned at all.
Yeah. The guy is in a prison in wherever the hell he is. And I agree with Pat, that gets me pumped every time, where they're all like,
I guess Christopher Nolan's Christopher Nolan briefly showing that city when he walks out of the pit, It's like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, like this is how he got back. But with
Yeah,
people,
but where's his money? But where's his
How
money?
did he get back?
He doesn't have
and
any
yeah,
money.
and
They
plus
took
too,
all
when
his
people
money.
like if you went into that city and was like, I'm Bruce Wayne, would people know who he is?
They
No,
probably,
maybe,
if,
probably
if they
not.
did, they'd probably like, you're some rich American asshole like built
Yeah.
weapons. Like
Yeah.
your goddamn like water just like thing from the first one turned this place into a desert.
Yeah, I mean,
They might throw him in prison for
it's
just being an
definitely
American.
yeah, it's definitely a plot hole, but it's something I overlook. It's like a nitpick for me with this movie, just
That's
because
pretty major, man.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
mean, how did they get back thousands of miles back to Gotham?
I know,
Gotham
I
is
know.
under.
That's important.
I
And
know.
then another plot hole that again I know we haven't said a lot of positive. I'm trying to stay positive about Dark Knight Rises because I don't think it's terrible, but it's just not. It doesn't live up to the first two. But the other plot hole, all of a sudden, Batman's all fucked up. He hasn't been Batman for 8 years. He's like got a cane. He's like, oh, I'm crying because Catwoman took the pearls. And then all of a sudden, he puts this thing on his knee, and all of a sudden, his knee is fine. His knee is
He's
all fucked up.
he's kicking bricks.
I mean, what the heck? And he's
Well,
like,
I always
"I'm
thought
Bat-
that there was like technology in that thing that was allowing him
cheap.
to
It's
move
cheap.
his
Cheap.
I mean, Wait, I just all of a sudden he puts his little thing on. He puts his little strap-on thing for his kneecap, and all of a sudden his back is the Cape Crusader. I'm kind of like, eh.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like The Dark Knight Rises is not the third movie that Nolan originally would have wanted if Heath had been around. But I mean, he tried the best, I think, given the situation. He tried to focus instead more on the League of Shadows stuff, kind of
Yeah.
bring it full circle. I appreciate all that.
Which is cool.
But
Which is cool.
I just get the impression, just from like the movie itself, that this isn't a movie Christopher Nolan was necessarily passionate about.
Yeah.
It feels more hollow than the first two.
Yeah,
Like
it
it
does.
doesn't have as much to say, or if it does, it's like shallow stuff. It's
Yep.
like, oh, we hate society, like rich people. Let's get all the rich
that
people.
scene where they're just taking all the rich people out of the
Yeah,
hotel.
but then it
throwing them in
turns
the-
out none of that actually matters to Bane. He's just going to blow up the city anyway. It's not actually coming
Exactly.
from anywhere. It's
Yeah.
just shallow. Like,
Well, I don't know if you guys read this, but I remember reading when it came out, the Occupy Wall Street movement in New York City and around the country happened like,
That was like around that time, right?
yeah, it was kind of around that time. It was like 6-7 months before that. And a lot of people who, well, overall, I am a Christopher Nolan fan. I think overall he's a good filmmaker. I don't think his last few movies have been as good as maybe some of his other ones, but some people make a joke about that he couldn't stand the Occupy Wall Street movie because they were talking about like, income inequality and like the rich paying their fair share in taxes, and like so he made Bane as basically like this example of like, this is basically my villain who's the Occupy Wall Street to try to take down all the rich people, in Gotham, quote unquote, really New York City. But I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing to think about, and how, is the thing that's interesting too about the movie is that, and again, I want to say some positives about it because I don't think it is terrible. I actually think like you can kind of like understand where Bane is coming from. And I mean, I'm not talking about like blowing up a city with a nuclear weapon, but you can kind of understand like this anger about and frustration about basically, an elite class of people ruling Gotham,
Right.
or ruling society. Everybody else gets screwed and just gets like scraps off the table.
Right.
Like there's part of Bane's kind of like character driven backstory and everything that you can almost be like, you know what, dude, this guy's actually got kind of a point. I mean, the fact that Gotham is so corrupt that it's beyond saving.
It's still corrupt these 8 years after the Dark Knight.
Yeah, and it's like they say, oh, they cleaned up the streets and everything's great now because organized crime is pretty much gone. But
Harvey
but then
Dent was the man that we needed.
But then you're like, it shows you that it is still corrupt because corruption's based on lies, and the whole thing about Harvey was a lie. And
No
it's just like,
more lies. That's all I'll say.
but I don't know. I mean, I think Dark Knight Rises is overall a good movie. It's just for me personally, it's just not at the same level as the first two.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what it is. Like I like the things you guys talked about that you don't necessarily like. I understand where you guys are coming from. Like I totally get it. I can't argue with you on that. I don't know. For me, some of those aspects work, and then some of those aspects for me are more nitpickish rather than actual major problems. I've always had an affinity for this movie, but I do like it less than Dark Knight now.
Thank God. Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. But if we're gonna still talk about positives, I want to bring it back to Catwoman for a minute because I really like, I do like Anne Hathaway a lot as Catwoman in this movie.
Yeah, she was good.
And
Yeah,
she was
good.
that one casting choice where I was like, it was similar to Heath Ledger. I was like, I don't really know about this, but she pulled it off, and I also like how she's somewhat like you can see that she's kind of playing both sides because she leads Bruce or Batman when he is Batman to Bane, and she doesn't know who he is. But then once she finds out that he's Bruce Wayne, she's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that kind of like moment where she puts like two and two together.
Yeah.
You know. But
Yeah, I think you're right, Alex. I think too. I think it's nice to see too. Like, 'cause I agree with you guys. It was nice to see in the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy to see actually a woman who's a woman character who's strong, independent, who takes shit from no one. And I guess Rachel Dawes was kind of like that too. But I feel like Catwoman is the first time we've seen kind of like in this Batman trilogy, like a woman just being like, I don't care what people say about me, I don't care what they think about me, I'm doing what I need to do to survive, kind of thing. And like, what's interesting about Catwoman too is like you can see her point of view too. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? I'm trying to survive here. Like, you've pushed me to do this, and like
she's kidnapping like government officials.
yeah, and it's like every nobody really likes a lot of politicians, so
Yeah.
what I wanted to ask you guys too. What you guys and what do you think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character overall in the film?
Well, I've always loved him. I mean, the Robin thing, either way for me. But other than that, I've always loved him because I think for me he represented like what Gordon was. Like they were like the two cops that were like the ones that were doing the right thing, whereas everybody else was the corrupt cop.
I don't mind him. I forget his name. Is it Blake?
Blake, yeah. John Blake.
John Blake. I don't mind him. I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt a lot as an actor, so I think he does better than the actual material.
Yeah.
But it's kind of for the reason you just said, Alex. But kind of the opposite ways. We already have Gordon, so I feel like he's kind of superfluous. Like, yes, it's cool to see multiple cops that like believe in Batman's thing, and like it's nice that there's like someone to carry on Batman's legacy. But I think that would have been more impactful if it had been a character. If they had maybe introduced this
like
guy earlier in the
character or something.
Yeah, like he's in this movie just to be that guy to carry on a legacy that we're actually never going to see because the trilogy's over.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I like him, but besides like what I said earlier, when he just miraculously knows that Bruce Wayne's Batman, like if Gordon didn't know that, like this kid figures it out. It's weird. But I mean, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt a lot, so I can't really complain too much about Blake.
Yeah, same. Overall, what are you guys going on Dark Knight Rises?
You guys go first. I'll go last.
I'll go.
Alex, you go first.
Alex goes first. Go ahead.
What did I give Begins? A.
Yeah.
You get Begins an A minus.
I get Begins an A minus.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I went A. We'll probably match it A.
Wow.
I would give The Dark Knight Rises a B.
I would give The Dark Knight Rises probably. I'll go with Pat. I'd probably B.
I just think there's just so many little things that are actually kind of big things sometimes that weigh it down, that keep it from being great.
Overall, it's a good,
like
it's a solid Batman movie, and it's a good kind of ending to the. I honestly think the Dark Knight trilogy overall is
phenomenal.
Really, phenomenal overall.
Yeah,
I mean, iconic. I mean, it brought Batman back to a level
of respectability.
Yeah, and then like. And I for me, just personally, I've always loved Batman because I think Batman is it's just an interesting character and,
for me,
kind of relatable in so many ways.
Yeah, for me growing up, is always Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. So I'm always gonna have an affinity for Batman, unless if it's Ben Affleck Batman, which I don't hate Ben Affleck as Batman. I just hate the material he was given.
Oh, I do.
So I guess we can close this out. How would you rank the Batman actors? Now that
we've seen. Go ahead, Pat, and then I'll go after you.
Yeah,
I would put Christian Bale at 1.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson at 2.
Oh, okay.
Michael Keaton at 3.
Damn.
Val Kilmer at 4.
Damn.
Ben Affleck at 5. George Clooney at 6.
Damn.
And Kevin Conroy in A League of His Own. 'cause he's amazing.
There you go.
It's hard to compare. Yeah, it's hard to compare him with the on-screen guys. What
Yeah.
about you, Alex?
Bale 1. I think I would put Keaton 2.
Okay.
And then Pattinson 3.
Okay.
And then it gets tough because it's like,
No, it doesn't.
well, because it's like Val Kilmer's in a. I was gonna say he's in the worst movie, but he's actually not.
No.
Than Ben Affleck, because Ben Affleck is actually in the worst movie. But see, I think Ben Affleck played Batman well for what he was given. It's just what he was given was absolute dog shit. So that's
Okay.
me. So like I'm tempted to put Affleck above Kilmer. So I think I'm gonna put Affleck above Kilmer, and then I'll go Kilmer and then Clooney.
No Adam West, anybody?
Oh yeah,
I
Adam
haven't
West,
seen-
great. Rest in peace.
I haven't seen that 66 movie.
What? Well, well, next time I come to Beantown, we'll have to watch that one, Alex.
Oh shit, my microphone. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, you'll love it because it's just so different than anything we've talked about all night.
Yeah.
I would say for me, definitely Christian Bale. I've just always been a fan of Christian Bale. I mean, I love most of the films he's in overall. I actually think one of his best performances is American Psycho.
Oh yeah.
I think he is so good in that movie. I just love him, but he definitely is the best overall Batman. I don't know how you can argue against that. I would say number 2, I would have to still do Michael Keaton, just because I grew up with loving Michael Keaton as Batman. I would say though a close third is Robert Pattinson.
I'm surprised.
I was surprised how good he was as Batman. I really didn't expect
We
that.
should talk about the Batman. Not in this video, but we should do a little video after this. Talk about the Batman.
Yeah, sure, I'm up for it.
Yeah.
So, but
Is that okay with you, Alex? It's your
yeah, I'll
channel.
do it.
I mean, I'm fresh off seeing it again, so
let's do it. But I would say Robert Pattinson definitely third. Okay.
Mhm.
I would say for me. Wait, what did I say? Okay, so Michael Keaton. Robert Pattinson, sorry.
I said George
dude,
Clooney at 1, Ben Affleck at 2.
I would definitely
Clooney at
say
1,
Val.
everybody else too.
I would say Val Kilmer number 4, just because I am a fan of Val Kilmer. I think he's had some great movies that he's been in. I feel bad for the guy, and I love when he says the whole line to Dr. Chase Meridian. Excuse me, doctor, do you like the circus? Like, I love that. I love that line. Okay. And and Val Kilmer looks fabulous in the bat suit with the bat nipples. I would say definitely after Val Kilmer.
Bruce Wayne and Batman.
After Val Kilmer, I would say Adam West. Okay. Then after Adam West, then I would say Ben Affleck. Okay. Then definitely last would be George Clooney.
Yeah.
All he does in Batman and Robin is say, "Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman." Like George Clooney doesn't even try to be Batman.
Got the ice.
Never leave the cave without it.
He's George Clooney in a Halloween costume. It's like the whole movie's a Halloween party.
I'll give him this. At least George Clooney hates himself in that movie. So.
Oh, good. I hope he does.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment, an abomination.
All right, so that's gonna wrap up our trilogy talk of The Dark Knight. This was really fun. Yeah, it was nice to have you on, Tim.
Oh, thanks, there.
Yeah, because I know you're a big Christopher Nolan and Dark Knight trilogy fan, so it was nice to have another perspective there.
Sure.
So we'll go around. Tim, do you have any social media where they can reach you?
Well, I was what social media?
The answer's no.
Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at that Pat guy. Or is it this Pat guy? I never. It's either this Pat guy or that Pat guy.
I think it's that.
It's
Pat.
one of the
You
two.
don't even know your own Twitter name.
I just log in and I tweet. So
you tweet and potentially start wars with people.
yeah, to occasionally Star Wars, piss a couple people off. It's okay.
So are we gonna make the Batman video after this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just
Let's
got to
do
go
it.
through my social medias. You can
Got
find
a
me,
lot of them, Tim. Get ready. Get ready.
you can find me at my official website, alexmattymovies.mystrikingly.com, and my OnlyFans.
I knew you were gonna do that. You son of a
I had to
bitch.
do it once for Tim.
Hell?
No, I don't have it. But you can find me at my official website, alexmaddenmovies.mystrikingly.com. All my social media links, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube are there. You guys are the best. That was Tim. That was his brother, Pat. I'm their cousin, Alex. We'll see you guys soon.
Peace.
Harvey, can we trust him?